Placement of non-public school student new. Mr. Nava motion, Mr. Connect-Stead second. Below on non-public school numbers 11, 112, 113, and 114 by a vote of 7-0, and that was approved. Placement of non-public school student changes, Mr. Heberly motion, Mr. Nava second, with an approval 7-0. Conference with legal counsel, Mr. Nava motion, Mr. Porter seconded to reject claim number 606831 with a vote of 7-0. Mr. Neely? He said yes. He did say yes. 7-0 rejected. You're okay, Mr. Nava, thank you. And that's all we have from closed session. I'd like to move on for a couple moments of silence. I'm going to start with Nicole Blankenship. We were saddened to share that Nicole Blankenship, a teacher at Needham School, passed away over this weekend. Please join us in extending our condolences to the Blankenship family, the students, and staff at Needham School. I'd like to take a moment of silence, please. Thank you. We also have another moment of silence. I'm tired of doing these at our meetings. It seems like every meeting we have a moment of silence. It is also with great sadness that we share the news of the passing on May 27th of Sean Cannon Jr., a student at Podesta Ranch Elementary. Please join us in extending our condolences to the Cannon family and all the Podesta Ranch School community. I'd like to take a second moment of silence. Thank you for allowing us to have a moment of silence. There is no segue. We're going to go right into public hearing. The first one, I'd like to declare the public hearing open for the Local Control and Accountability, the LCAP plan. Dr. Solly, does any board members have questions? Does anyone from the public have comments? Dr. Washer, members of the board. First, I want to thank you for taking the moment of silence for Ms. Blankenship. That was something I was going to ask that you do. I just want to make sure that as people are going through this and looking at the budget overview, they really understand where some of this money is going, and that we have, as a district, said that we're going to be spending money to retain and recruit the best teachers. And unfortunately, that's a goal that in the LCAP that's not being met. And we later on, when we go to personnel matters, there are 26 resignations or retirements. Already we have a lot of positions. My count is around 50. In addition to those that we need to fill. So that is my comment. You're not making your goals on retaining and recruiting teachers. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? I declare this public hearing closed. Wait, somebody wanted to talk. Oh, sorry. Didn't see you coming up. I was reading.
I wasn't quick enough. I'm sorry.
The only thing I wanted to say was I did see the custodial in there. Sorry, I just got out of the swimming pool. I was coaching swim, so Desiree Wise. But I did see some custodial positions in there. I think it's only half of really what we need. We need about 32 custodians, I think, full-time 8-hour positions. So it's a start in the right direction, but we do need more. It's not quite enough. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to close that public hearing. We're going to open the second public hearing for the 22-23 budget adoption for Mr. Cohn. Any board comments? Any public comments? With no comments, we will close that public hearing.
Comments from the public. We have 3 comments tonight, so I won't read my little blurb unless everybody is very familiar with the budget system. Show of hands if you want me to reread the statement. All right, we're gonna go, no, really? Okay, I'm gonna read it. Okay. Solid green, 1 to 2 minutes. Flashing green, 1 minute left. Orange, 30 seconds. Red and beep, time is up. Each person will have 3 minutes. So the first person up is David Bollinger, and then Kathleen Evans will be next, and then Lana Gentry. Welcome.
Good evening, Dr. Washer, President McFarland, board members. My name is David Bollinger, parent of 2 children in district schools, and thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I wish to express my extreme displeasure with the district's intent to eliminate instrumental music programs from elementary schools next year. I also wish to object to the process whereby this decision to plunder curriculum was made behind closed doors without any opportunity for public comment in advance. My understanding is that the district is short 8 elementary school teachers, perhaps 50 teachers overall, perhaps 140 staff overall. And this is an attempt to at least staff all classroom music programs by reallocating existing staff where instrumental programs are also offered. But at what cost? This appears to be a Pyrrhic stopgap measure at best, with potentially long-lasting consequences. This shouldn't have to be an either-or choice. No school should go without classroom music programs either. If the district had its house in order, then all programs would be adequately staffed without need to cannibalize band, string, and choir programs. This action will deprive students of future opportunities in what appears to be merely an easy out for a far more difficult problem, your overall staff retention and recruitment. The district must do better to address its grossly negligent staffing shortages throughout. I have witnessed the profound impact that instrumental music has had on my children and others. No other single subject has turned on their brains in the way that music did. Every other subject has then benefited in measurable ways. Music grows brains, motivates and inspires, and instills a confidence that goes way beyond the music itself. Dr. Washer's report often mentions the district's superior music programs. We all take pride in reporting when our students excel, so let's not rob them of the opportunity. Eliminating the elementary programs will create a ripple effect through the higher grade programs, negatively affecting the district for many years to come. Has the district grown content to offer merely the bare minimum educational opportunities to its students? I challenge this board to actually address its myriad problems rather than merely applying short-sighted band-aids. Find the needed teachers rather than cutting programs, and restore this once outstanding district. Thank you. Let's go back. I yield my time.
Thank you. Kathleen Evans.
Good evening, board members, parents, and colleagues. My name is Kathleen Evans. I've been teaching band and classroom music in our district for 26 years. I am sure that you are all aware that our district is suspending our elementary instrumental music classes. Next year, our district will force all instrumental music teachers to teach classroom music to compensate for 8 classroom music vacancies. Doing this will destroy the instrumental music program that I personally asked you to reinstate 7 years ago. Tonight I would like to ask you to come together to do everything in your power to ensure that thriving programs like my band program at Silva Elementary School continue to be taught during the school day. We do not have a music teacher shortage. We have a shortage of teachers that want to work for Lodi Unified. In the past 2 years, music teachers, including myself, have mentored more than 8 music student teachers. No one, not a single teacher, chose to continue working in our district. They've all chosen to work in neighboring school districts where they can make more money and have better benefits. Our district has been saving money for a rainy day for many years. Our rainy day is here. I urge you to negotiate and work with our union to help recruit and retain teachers for our school district. Give new teachers signing bonuses like Stockton Unified. Offer no-cost health care like Sacramento Unified. and boost our salaries across the board so that we can be competitive with other neighboring school districts. Give teachers a reason to stay in our school district. If you fail to do that, I believe that you will have a crisis on your hands that is not limited to just music, but it will impact every subject and every grade level in Lodi Unified School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi there, my name's Lana Gentry. Good evening, Dr. Washer, President McFarland, and all of the school board members. I voted today. Okay, so I'm here to talk about something different, about the state of the restrooms at Bear Creek High School. And I've only seen the girls. We have 3 restrooms on campus, but we never have more than 1 open at a time. Our largest bathroom has 6 stalls, but 2 of the doors are broken and cannot be closed in the girls' room. 2 of the sinks are broken and cannot be used. There are only 2 soap dispensers, so even if you had a sink, you have to crowd with people to get some soap. There isn't always paper towels, and there are not toilet seat covers in every bathroom. They have one in the big door when you walk in to grab as you go to the restroom. I've brought this up before at our school site. We have 2,000 students, so to have 4 working bathrooms in the biggest bathroom is not okay. The 2 other restrooms have 2 or 3 stalls in them, but they're not always open. We'll be like, okay, which restroom's open today? There's not enough restrooms. They're not clean. The kids don't want to use them. I'm going to hear girls all the time saying they just hold it all day long. They don't want to use the restroom. Or they come to my room where I have soap and water. I'm lucky. I'm in one of the new buildings that has soap and water, so I'm like, wash up everyone. But in addition to that, a new state law passed January 1st, 2022, that feminine products need to be in all public school bathrooms for 6th through 12th grade. If you did not know, that is law, and it must be instituted by 2022-2023 school year. So I would like to see all of our restrooms open. I would like them to have working doors to close, working sinks, a soap dispenser next to each sink, and then obviously toilet seat covers, soap, I mean the whole thing. It's not okay to not have clean restrooms for our students. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That concludes our comments from the public. I'd like to move on to Dr. Washer.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board. Well, we had a wonderful week of graduations, actually over a week of graduations. Thank you, board members, for your participation. We have some pictures to show you the celebrations. Each and every school site did a fantastic job. I want to thank our high school teams for their work in putting this together. As I'm sure you know, this takes months and months of planning and a lot of work on a lot of folks' part. So thank you so much to all of our high school teams for making these events very special to our students and their families. It was great to be back at UOP for our comprehensive high schools, back at Hutchins Street Square for other ceremonies as well. Thank you to Chelsea for the live streaming and for taking care of some of the other things that sometimes get forgotten to make sure that everyone has access to the graduation ceremonies. Thank you to UOP for being great hosts and making sure that everything went well. Just finish up some pictures there. We have a lot of summer school activities going on. I'd like to encourage you to get out and about. If you'd like to see some of those, please let us know. We have a large number of students going to UOP for the residency, the 2-week residency. We have science camps going on with the county, with Got Kids, with the school district, and of course our regular summer school programs, program for English learners. Lots of things going on, so if you want to see some in action, please give us a call and we'll let you know where you can go visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Washer. Moving on to consent agenda A. At this time, would any board members like to pull any of the consent agenda items? I have one question. I'd like to pull A11. Anybody from the audience have any consent agenda items to pull?
President McFarland,
Yes.
please support. I'd like to pull A7 and A8. We will return the items at one of the next two board meetings.
Got it.
Madam Chairman, I move we approve rest of routine agenda 8.
Perfect. So we have a motion from Mr. Nava, and Mr. Porta is the second. I'd like to call for the vote. Do you want me to restate them, or do you have them? You're okay, Valerie, on them?
Yes, thank you. He's not logged on.
I just, I'm logged on, I voted.
Oh, okay. We need the Jeopardy music. I just have a question. And Mr. Fragus has voted, and that passes 7-0. I pulled number 11. I just have a quick question. In looking at the report, I want to make sure, Dr. Sully, I noticed we have lots of things accounted for in the report. We're good on custodians and all the other hands-on help that we need, because I didn't see those components.
Yes, those are as
Come on up.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. Those are also included in the budgetary components. It's just that those are generally not a new staff. We accommodate that through additional hourly if necessary, but the current staff at the sites is in place. So the new part would be the time of the additional 30 days, and that would have to be arranged either through time card work or additional hourly for the staff that's currently in place. We wouldn't necessarily add staff like a custodian for the additional 30 days. We would seek to time card that work. The current daily schedule in place would still be met with current staffing. So it's really the addition of the 30 days that it would require some additional time, but we'd be working to cover that with.
And so how much time are we having? How much time has been allowed? Do you have any? I know that I'm probably asking.
The program generally runs after school, roughly 3 to 4 hours. The requirement is to have a 9-hour day, but that starts early in the morning and goes till generally 6.
Mm-hmm.
So the need for the biggest need is the extra 30 days on either a break time, fall or spring break, or during the summer. And as we currently do with summer staffing, we cover those generally custodial needs with additional hourly.
And then my other question would be, I know at our last, our LCAP meeting, we talked about how many phone calls were coming in to one person from a variety of programs. So I want to make sure that we also have the manpower help within the district office.
Yes, there's, let me find my chart there. I'm sorry, I had it here a minute ago.
There's an account clerk and an account technician.
Yeah, the account clerk would be added to, or would be used for that purpose to help support calls and just maintenance of operations and paperwork and so forth. So that is a position that was brought forward.
When I look at how many schools there are and the amount of work and phone calls that could be generated,
Right.
That makes me a little
We currently have
nervous.
staffing for the 27 sites we're currently serving. So that is covered currently and would continue to. The additional, bringing in the fee-based programs and such, some of that would still be the work would still be covered with 27 sites currently, so we're adding this other clerical position to cover the addition of that extra arm or those new 9 sites, as well as accounting for the extra 30 days. Those staff still, for people call in, they speak Spanish, we use our community liaisons for that purpose as well. So there's still some existing staff, but you'll see, as you mentioned, that clerical position is added to help support the extra calls and such paperwork that's going to be needed to be generated.
So then the only other concern that I know is when we time card, our CSEA employees do not earn vacation time, sick leave, retirement. And so I'm just curious if we get to a number that it becomes rather large and we're having a hard time staffing that we are open to looking at hiring full-time.
Yes, I would not oppose that at all. It's simply that it's sort of, I don't know what term to use, but it's somewhat a seasonal, those extra 30 days become sort of a seasonal need. So it's hard to bring somebody on full-time for that purpose, but we can certainly look into it. If we get caught in a position, we would certainly be interested in staffing appropriately with full-time. But under
So
this,
here's a crazy idea. Maybe that person was full-time and that's what they did for 30 days, and maybe another school would want to use them to clean or do something additional at it as a full-time position, since we maybe have the funds for that. Just my 2 cents, I know.
yes, we can do crazy out-of-the-box thinking. I'm happy to do that. There is currently in the ELO plan adequate funding. We're truly trying to meet the needs, and we just didn't want to overshoot, but if we find out we've undershot, we need to add.
On keeping a classroom clean, I'd rather overshoot than undershoot.
I would agree.
That's just my personal opinion. Okay, Mr. Porter?
Yeah, I don't know if this falls under what you're doing right now, but summer school for this year, is this part of ELOP or not?
Summer school, the high school summer school is funded out of the bridge, Jose Maciel's grant that largely is already is funded annually out of his bridge funds and such. The elementary, generally the K-8 programs are being funded out of ELO, the grant.
I have a question about summer school. I understand that because of need, that we are having some programs where the kids are coming for 2 hours, meeting with a teacher, they go home, and then another group of students come in, hit with the same teacher 2 hours, and then they go home, instead of staying the whole 5 hours. So in essence, there's 2 classes being taught by one teacher, and I think they're getting $30 extra per day.
I know.
And what are we doing with the hours when we're only meeting them for 2 hours? When we're supposed to be meeting for 5 to hit the credit amount? I'm kind of confused.
So there's one instance of that. It's a pilot program, and in part due to 2 issues. Needing some additional staff to serve the need. We do have wait lists because of the need for additional staff. So we had an individual who was willing to try this model to be staffed at 75 and then split down the middle. They do an AM/PM session. The students would receive the face-to-face instruction, I'll say pre-lunch, and then they were given activities and assignments that they would be doing as an independent study in the afternoon. The group that wasn't on campus in the morning would be doing their independent study and work time during the morning. When they would come after lunch, they would have their face-to-face time. Their day is still a 5-hour day of activity. It's just that the face-to-face time is half of the day and their independent work is the other half of the day. And again, the goal is to try to think of a way to serve all of our students that need to have their requests with the staff we have available, but also I know there's been concerns about staff sizing, class sizing too previously. So Mr. Maciel for many years has started at 45, 46, and we've just found historically over the many years within the first 2 to 3 days that comes down to a little bit more manageable number, generally in the mid-30s. But this model, we staffing at the 75, which is the 2 courses. The staff ratio to student ratio is roughly the same, but split So it's a pilot and one classroom example, and we don't know if it will be successful. We needed to try something to look forward. I don't know that this student wait list issue is going to go away over time. It may, but if it doesn't, this could be a way to help alleviate it.
Right. And the pay scale was agreed upon in negotiations, I guess, as well.
Yeah, the pay scale is based upon the MOU, yes.
Right. And then my next question is on Apex. How long have we had Apex in our?
I'm gonna go from what I recall being told. I believe it's been in district for about 7 or 8 years.
And have we compared it to other programs?
I'm not sure about here. When in my previous district, we did compare it to some other programs as far as coverage of courses, make sure it was A to G compliant and such, and also costs. It's used by, from my understanding, probably the majority of districts that I've been in contact with over the years. Other programs are more expensive and have a more limited catalog. Apex has a very deep catalog that is met in AG compliance. So at this point, I feel it's still a strong category or program.
Would you consider it rigorous?
I would consider it, yes, very rigorous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I need a motion.
I move that we approve this item 811.
Comment from the public? Oh, absolutely. I apologize. Mr. Navi, you motioned it. Mr. Connect?
Sure.
I thought I heard you.
Thank you, Desiree Wise with CSEA. I just want to comment on the custodial piece when it comes to summer school, because it's my understanding we use subs to backfill summer school hours, like at our traditional high schools. For summer school, we use subs. It's not the current staff. So I don't know what would happen at these schools that are having summer school or expanded bridge programs. And as far as the clerical, I did speak with Dr. Soley about the account clerk, and his exact words were that person would do the same thing that Debbie currently does, and Debbie is currently an account technician. The steps between the two are pennies on the dollar. I don't know why we would not set your program up for success and have a technician. The other thing is the admin assistant. We currently have 4 or 5 different summer school programs operating and 4 or 5 different people answering phones. So if you're offering intercessions, which are going to be throughout the school year, which is going to cause more phone calls and clerical work, why we would not have an additional admin secretary in our current intervention office answering phones and trying to help you guys sell your program. Because they're currently calling elementary, they're currently calling categorical, they're currently calling Lori Lott for Elevate, they're currently calling the intervention office for high school, and some of the elementary parents have gotten invitations for all of them. So I would hopefully like to see an additional admin secretary. An account tech isn't, or an account clerk doesn't answer phones, they process paperwork. An admin secretary answers phones and helps direct traffic with the public. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Hi, Lana Gentry again. The summer school numbers at Bear Creek do not drop down to the mid-30s. It's in our A rooms at the back. They bring desks in from all over the campus and pack them in there. My room currently has 34 desks, and they will bring in another 10 to 15. And when I go back to check and see what's going on in my classroom or to bring something in, desks haven't been removed. They do not go down to the 30s. So I just want to put that out there from what I've seen. Way too many kids in, I mean, maybe if they're in the portables, but my room does not allow more because I've got the sinks and all the other stuff in there. I've also done credit recovery. Apex is not A through G. It is used to get kids to make up their credits and get a high school diploma. They are just taking quizzes online. We used to make them do the work and all this other stuff to earn the grades, and then somebody from the district, I don't know where, wanted to streamline it and get the kids through faster to make up their credits. So it is not A through G. They are just getting their D and C to graduate from high school. So So that needs to be clarified. And then it's probably not time to go into Pearson and AP, so I'll let that go, but.
Not during this topic, but I appreciate
Yep,
it.
not for this topic.
Thank you.
It's me again.
Welcome.
Welcome. So, Mr. Solly said a couple of things that really disturbed me because I have talked to summer school teachers, and having the doubling up is more than one class. I've known several teachers who have contacted me and said they're being asked to do this. Now, here's the thing. I've taught summer school, I've taught high school biology, I've taught it in person, I've taught it online, and I'm going to agree with my colleague Lana Gentry. Yeah, numbers go down a little bit, but they don't go down significantly. They go down to maybe around, high 30s to 40, somewhere in there. Doesn't matter if you're online, doesn't matter if you're in person. Okay. Now, if I were to teach high school biology and had to do that in 2 hours and cover all the material, it's hard enough to take a 5-hour block and cover all the material. Now you're talking about, these kids really aren't getting an education. We're just trying to pass them along. Lodi Unified is becoming a diploma mill. It's not going to pass any A to G requirement. There's no way. And I know Mr. Porter was a former science teacher. He can probably attest to this. There's no way you can do this model and have these kids really grasp the material. Even if they're on campus for that 2 hours and they have a question, where are they going to go? They can't go into the other class where she's trying to teach them, that teacher, I should say he, she, they, are trying to teach, again, reteach what they taught their first load of kids. They can't go in there and ask questions. There's no one to help them through this. Summer school is challenging enough. This model is atrocious for students, and the only reason that it's a change in working conditions for the teachers, but unfortunately our MOU does not address this for summer school, so we're not allowed to do a whole heck of a lot. But for $30 more, I'm telling you, I'm already hearing teachers who are going to resign. They will not teach this model. It's not fair to them, it's not fair to the students. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on for A11. I'd like to call for the vote. And the motion passes 6-1 with 1 no. Mr. Porter, moving on to consent agenda B, student discipline cases.
Madam President,
Yes.
I know that Mr. Khan had A7 and A8.
He pulled it for a later time.
Now, these are tabled or automatic tabled?
Table.
I assumed he wanted them tabled.
Table.
I can't, that's what
Go
I
ahead and vote to table them.
have to vote to table. Oh, I apologize, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Null. I assumed
Which one requires it?
7 and 8.
We tabled and then connect next week.
If you
Yes.
table them, they have to come back next time. If you just don't do a motion, then it's,
Then it comes back.
there's no
to the
requirement to
meetings
bring it
of
back
staff.
next
What
time.
works for you, Mr. Khan?
I may need the extra week, so it'll be the 21st at the latest.
So we will
There's
do,
a good probability we can bring it back next week, but I need another agency to do something to the document.
Then don't table.
so we don't table, we let
Right,
it
just
stand and then he will
don't-
bring
just-
it back.
It dies for lack of motion.
Got it, that's perfect, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nava. Consent agenda B, disciplinary cases. Any
Madam
comment?
Chairman, I move we approve student disciplinary cases.
Mr. Nava motions, Mr. Porter seconds. Call for the vote. It passes 7-0. Moving on to board discussion. It's me. The board will discuss and engage in an employee salary study. I asked Dr. Washer to put this on. We hear lots of we have, at least in my 4 years, lots of conversation about how we retain, what are we doing, we're not equal with other districts. I'd like to start by saying thank you to our cabinet, thank you Mr. Hahn, thank you Mr. McKilligan. This is no reflection of you. This is simply, there's nothing that makes me go crazy as a previous insurance broker to see someone stand at that podium, or I get an email and they say, by God, give us free health insurance, so-and-so did it. And I'm like, do you know the name of the plan? Can you name the premiums? Can you tell me about the co-payments? Can you tell me what they have? Not all plans are created equal. And so if we're going to say blanket statements, I want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. I want to know that a clerk typist one here, what does a clerk typist one make in Stockton Unified or Galt or Sacramento? I want each position evaluated and looked at closely. I do believe we have an amazing district. I don't think our problems here are any different than any other district. We sit at many CSBA programs and other events, and when you talk to board members, they are experiencing sometimes things much worse than we are. I know it feels like we are on an island and that we are very different, and what can we do to get the best teachers? Everybody's got their own hustle going. Every district is trying their best, and that's basically why I put this on the agenda. I think we need to get a better hustle than somebody next door. And you can't get a better hustle, as I like to call it, without knowing what you're hustling. And so we need to know that our salaries and our benefits, whether it's health and welfare or a number of days worked or vacation days or our calendar, what do we look like stacked up to our neighboring districts? And everybody will tell you their district is the best, and I still think ours is the best. Board members, opinions, questions? Mr. Connexet.
Actually, that rings really great positive in my mind. I think it's a good idea. My biggest concern is who would be doing this study? Because that's going to be very time consuming.
Well, I think most districts, in the way having done this in other arenas, most districts have their pay scale, so the independent person will go and gather all the information. What I'm not looking to do is have a sit down with our accounting department and say, so what do you think? I'm not looking to sit down with any union and say, so what do you think? We're not looking for it. We're looking for parameters.
So we want to hire an outside.
I want to hire somebody outside that we do not touch. They will go out and gather all the information. They will come back and report. They will report the data. But what I do want is each group that has a stake in it to be able to see the data before it's released. I'm not going to negotiate whether we're correct on our data. I'm going to assume when this company gets the data that we've hired somebody reputable and that the data and the parameters will be in place. And I think those parameters are very important, and maybe we need to form an ad hoc committee. I'm not sure exactly how we do it based on who we're hiring and how we're doing that. This is this discussion format of it.
I think it's probably a pretty good idea.
Well, I think we need to do something. Any other board members? Mr. Porter.
Could you, Ms. McFarland, give me the idea of your parameters?
Well, my parameters, first of all, I'll use CSE for an example. In other words, if
I'm sorry, overall.
I want this company to come back and look at each individual grouping, whether it's principals or administrative assistants within their bargaining group, so to speak, in a bargaining setting. I would like them to go out and analyze what we provide versus apples to apples with what other districts have. If the positions are different, then we present the pay scale and the benefits, the hours worked. In other words, if you could say, Bear Creek, for example, if they had 25 custodians, does a school of similar size, similar structure, similar square footage, how many custodians do they have? And once you've got that number, what is the pay structure on that? I'm looking for a breakdown of everything. I think we probably know, we have our opinion. The groupings have their opinions. What I don't want to do is get into a he said, she said argument. I think the data is the data, and how we interpret the data that will be where the discussion comes in.
Are you looking also at time and motion?
Absolutely.
So
I think you
for
have to.
efficiency?
I think you have to.
So see where we're at top end and where we're not?
Yep.
Okay, so
And I think some of it will come into, I'm not saying when we get done, if we like what we see, we might not like what we see, but then again, we have to meet with our financial people, because that is the number one job of the board besides keep a district running is that we are fiscally responsible. And that will come down to meeting and negotiating within our team to figure out where can we raise, where are we top heavy, where are we bottom heavy.
Will the results of this be transparent to the public?
How can it not be?
Very good.
I don't see why it wouldn't be. I mean, that's the whole point of it is, you know,
I just have.
yes.
Thank you. I also think that this is a great idea. I've been wanting something like this for a long time. And a lot of times we fall back on things that we've personally experienced. In my work life, I was a negotiator for decades. And the very first thing we did was a survey, which basically covered a lot of things that you said. Here would be work days, salary, medical, on and on and on. And it would also tell us, where do we stand at year 5 on a, let's say, a salary schedule? Where are we at year 10, 15? Those kinds of things. Because we may look good at year 10, but we look really bad at year 15. So it was standard practice for us to do this kind of a survey. And actually, once it was done, the subsequent years were really easy to update. And the way we worked it is that we got the information. It's all public record, and every agency has that available. Of course, when I was doing it, not that much was online.
Was there computers there?
I don't know. Yeah, computers took the size of the room. But anyway, what it did was it got everything away from the realm of anecdotal, so that we could really see where we were. And when the survey was produced, it goes to your question: is it accessible and public? Oh, absolutely. The labor groups actually looked at it, and they're very willing to research it themselves and to verify it. And like I said, once it was done, I'm telling you, it was really easy after that. And having it as like a third party doing it is an interesting idea, and I think that it's a very valid one for this. I mean, it's much different from my employer, where there were 52 of us in the department. Okay, so it was a big difference. However, the same idea carries through, is that we will now know where we stand, and our employees will know, and we can then we meet and see what we can do to make things better for everyone. So I'm in favor of it. I'd say let's go and get it done ASAP.
Mr. Freitas.
I'll hold my comments.
Sure.
Mr. McFarland, I'm having problems with it because anytime I go to the computer, I can find out the salaries of everybody in the nation. And in San Joaquin County, I go to Stockton Unified School District, Elk Grove, and all that, and I can compare. I don't know what the purpose of this would be. Are we going to be transparent? We're already transparent with going into the computer. We don't need somebody to do all this work. This is only a personal opinion, and then show me, okay, this district pays more than we do, and this district pays less than we do. So what do you do with the material? Are we going to use it in negotiations? No. Are we going to give them, they're paying more, so let's keep up with the Joneses? No. I don't think so. So I don't know. It's a big thing to do if you're going to do transparency that way. But like I said, I know the salaries of a lot of other districts, and all I do is go to the computer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. I don't want to call it a rebuttal, but I agree with you, and I've toyed back and forth with this. I think the reason I'm in favor of it is we all can get the exact same information, but the public perception is one thing, and I think if we all have the same material we're looking at, People don't have to agree, but we will have a public document that encompasses all of those points on it.
In other words, you're trying to justify?
No, I'm trying to, I know in our heart that we produce a really good product at Lodi
Right.
Unified.
Right.
And I stand behind it. What I want to do is have more documentation for the public. There isn't a school district out there that isn't looking for teachers right now. And we cannot control personal family needs. If someone is jumping for salary because they can make 10 grand more, they're always going to jump for salary. We all have been in different walks of life where if money drives you, I respect that. If your family has different needs with medical benefits, you're gonna go where the best medical benefits are. I used to say, all schools educate children. I had a daughter that loved books. The first thing I looked at when I looked at schools was their library. I mean, each person has the right, an employee or family, to pick what's most important to you. And if we're lacking in some area, music, then we need to figure out how to do it and how to do it better. And I think we have a phenomenal district, and I think this will give us a component to showcase and retain and maybe go after in a different manner. That's where I'm coming from. I'm not saying we have to do it, but I would like to see us do it. George. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. This is a huge task that you're asking for here. And
Yep.
I'm going to start out by saying I support, but also I know we've tried this in the past. We actually had School Solutions, gathered some data for it, and it was woefully inadequate. We've got to be careful of who we ask to do this, because the compensation issue is so complicated. Because I mean, there's things that require a lot of thinking, such as on the health issues. Well, you know, our biggest union, LEA, and CSEA now, they pick their own health plan, right? They've got a budget that's given to them, and they pick out of that. So what is not shown, though, is that teachers that don't take health care from Lodi Unified, perhaps because they're married and their spouse has a better program, that money goes back in to the healthcare pool. And that's not the case in all districts. And I know that for a fact. Those are the little nuances that we've got to try to weed out. Now, another way of doing this, though, might be better for us, for everyone involved in this, is to take a look at the percentage of money that goes into these different categories, such as the percentage of money that we have that goes into our bargaining groups for both salary and for benefits. If you want to see how we compare on that, that's something. Because the other part of this is that this is going to have to be by actual area, because you know we've got, I guess, 32, 33 coaches that are out of the classroom that we're paying for, and that's not the case in a lot of districts. So there are a lot of things that have to be looked at. I agree that if we're going to do it, it's got to be an outside agency. And before we do anything final, this is just a discussion, but we need to draw up that criteria of what we're looking for. So this is the initial conversation. I get that, and I think it's a good idea, and I will support it. But we've got to be careful about how we do it and who we pick to do it. And that's all I've got for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, George. I agree. I think that the parameters of the study and who is picked, I think is very important. Where do we go from here, Kathy? Dr. Washer.
It's okay. President McFarland, members of the board, I heard support from board members, so we will do a little research into, I know that Mr. Khan has already started looking at firms that do this kind of thing, so we will gather some information for you and bring it back to you so that you can have another discussion with some more information and then decide if you want to move forward or not.
Correct. Thank you very much. Moving on to other action items. OAI 1, formation of a board ad hoc subcommittee for Superintendent Search Committee. Dr. Washer.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board. The board asked for some information on a process for looking for the next superintendent. So I think that a good way to start that would be for you to form a subcommittee, an ad hoc subcommittee. Ad hoc meaning that it would be temporary in nature just for this one purpose, and then it would dissolve, of course. So there are a couple ways you can do this if you are interested in this beginning the process. Is you can make a motion to approve this item, to form the committee, and to give the president the authority to appoint, and it would be up to 3 members. Or you could make a motion to have the committee, and then after that, you can then vote on who the members would be. So 2 different approaches depending on the motion that is made, if you want to make a motion.
All right, so we have 2 choices. Would anyone like to make a motion before we start?
Motion approved.
Just see what I'm dealing with. What would you, we have a motion to approve and a second. What would you We have to make a motion. Do you want the president to form the committee, or do you want to vote on it and then?
Just to clarify, President McFarland, the way the motion was stated, you would approve the committee and then you would vote for the members. If you want to go a different route, you can include in your motion, you can approve the committee and give the president the authority to appoint. Up to you.
I motion that we have the president go with the committee and approve.
You want me to appoint the committee?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
What's the length of this committee's time? In other words, we've got a committee. The reason I'm saying that, the only 2 sure people that are gonna be on the board is Mr. Knaxet and myself if we don't die. Because we're at that age, okay?
You look pretty healthy to me, Mr. Nova.
Thank you.
Gary, not so much.
There's 4 people up for re-election, and Dr. Freitas might have a victory tonight.
Maybe.
So, I mean, I'm hoping he does. So that leaves us, just 2 of us, till November. And then after November, then we'll know exactly how many people are gonna be on this board. But I don't know if Mr. Neely's gonna run, I don't know if you're gonna run, I don't know if Mr. Porter.
$1 million secret.
I don't know anything. I haven't asked. But, and I don't know if you're gonna be reelected if you run, if you have an opponent. So that's why I have a problem with it. No, I don't wanna pick anything.
You're gonna be around.
He's not.
No, I can be on the committee, and he can be on the committee, and then we don't have to hassle anything.
So we can run this whole district by ourselves.
We I agree with you 100%.
Oh, boy. Well, what I'd like to do, Mr. Novak, we have a motion and a second. What I'm thinking is we start and lay out a process rather quickly so that we know.
Quickly.
Quickly, we lay out a process. That doesn't mean we're going to move quickly.
Before you expire.
Before you expire.
Before we expire.
Get me out of that circle, man.
Move closer, George.
Yeah.
George, do you have any opinions on this?
Yeah, I think we should have a committee, and you can make it short term. You can make it until the last meeting in November. And during that time period, we've got some people who start getting the ball rolling and start looking for that agency that we're gonna, if we use a search agency or what we're gonna do and bring some recommendations back. So, yeah, I think it's a great idea. Let's set a deadline to report out no later than, let's say the last meeting in October, and then any suggestions can be voted on in November.
Good point.
Thank you, Mr. Neely.
May we have a friendly amendment that 1 member of the committee be from Lodi, 1 member be from Stockton, and 1 member be from rural areas?
Well, I'm the rural area, since I'm the.
Well, you're picking.
Correct.
There you go.
I like that. And so the 3 would include myself and 2 others, or myself and 3 others?
Yourself and 2 others, total of 3.
I don't have to pick them right now while they're staring at
But
me.
we would have representation from Stockton and Lodi.
And I'm gonna need your resumes, boys. Okay, no, I hear what you're saying. We want all stakeholders involved.
We want all stakeholders involved.
Okay.
He wants to make an amendment to the
Just what's the
motion.
difference between Stockton and Lodi?
Yes, I do. I think that's why we have the 7 different districts, and that's why we represent our constituents. And I think it's important that we have all our constituents, not just Lodi constituents, or not just Stockton constituents, or not just rural constituents involved. I think this is a very important change, and that we should have all of our stakeholders represented.
I think if we're picking between our 7 board members, I think they also have to be willing to do it. So I will take that under advisement, and I hear what you're saying, and I do agree with what you're saying, so we'll see who's
I take
going.
a little umbrage at that we're not all looking for all kids in all areas as a board.
I think you're twisting my words. I think we're all looking for all kids, but we all still have schools and locations that are assigned to us that we have to, that are constituents that we have to defend.
I don't think I twisted your words at all. This is just developing a process. It's fine, let her pick.
Okay, I will, before the next board meeting, I will figure out what, yes. Come on up.
Well, the mention was all stakeholders, and some of the stakeholders would be teachers, parents, CSEA. I really hope you include teachers on this when we're talking about stakeholders of this whole district, and definitely parents. So I wanted to say that, and I didn't know if I could stand up at the information thing, so just one thing when you're looking at your committee for people to look at stuff, you know, just the curiosity of how much might that cost, just to keep that in consideration.
Absolutely.
And then have them look at sub rates and just everything. Because some districts are paying higher if it's one of their retired teachers that comes back.
Are you talking about the previous?
Yeah, I didn't know I stood up, but I didn't know if I could, so I'm throwing it in now. I could.
No,
Okay.
you're okay. I
All
appreciate it.
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Washer, members of the board, yes, I want to reiterate what my colleague said, is I would like to see this committee have other stakeholders, including parents, students, okay, and come up with a list of criteria of what we would like to see in our next superintendent. So come up with the list of criteria, including all stakeholders, not just board members, but teachers, students, or other staff people, and present that at a meeting for review so that it could get input from those people who were not at the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, this has nothing to do with any other people except board ad hoc subcommittee. It's a board.
I agree, Mr. Nally.
Thank you.
All right, I will report. Oh, George?
On that,
Yes, Mr. Neely?
you know, and I agree with the people who spoke on this. Everyone does need to be involved, but not at this point yet. This committee is simply the way I understand it, is to go ahead and start the ball rolling. There will be plenty of time for everybody to put their input in.
Yes.
But that's not, this committee is the one just to get the ball rolling. And so, I think it should just be the board, because if you get too many people going in this committee, it will take forever, and we don't have forever. We need to get it going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. And I think the other important part is we are Dr. Washer's employer, the board is, and so therefore all the responsibilities falls on the Board of Education. And so to form a committee, I don't walk into someone else's job and get to have an opinion on everyone's review. So I think there is a time and a place where there will be more input, but I think at this point, to get the parameters of how we're going to do it, it does fall on the Board of Education. And so I'm expecting some work out of all of you at some point shortly. Yes?
And that is the point. When I read this, I figured it was an initial group to get things started so that we can add those things that you're talking about. It's not like it's going to be some secret meeting we go, we choose that one. That's not it. That is not it. It's just kickstarting it and let's get going so we don't sit on our hands too long. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Headley. Yes?
It's for the prior one. I wasn't sure if I could comment.
Go ahead and come
Or
up.
is this okay?
Yep. And if anybody does have a comment on an agenda item, if I miss you, just raise your hand, approach the podium. Go ahead.
Thank you, President McFarland
Absolutely.
and Board and Dr. Washer. I wasn't planning to speak, but as I was sitting there and listening, it did come to mind that I very much appreciate the idea of doing the research to make apples to apples comparison But at the same time, we are past some of that for negotiations, so I would ask that maybe we continue that working towards next year. I know that you had mentioned the perception, and I think it really comes down to the perception. So we can go through the details and go through, maybe we have more prep this or less this or more this or that. But like Mr. Nava said, when you look at adjoin and you see the low pay here and the high pay here, that's what new teachers look at. And by the time we get the details written out, those new teachers will be in new classrooms in other districts. So I would ask that you kind of go with your gut and the perception and really look at that overall baseline and bring that into a competitive space so that we can hold our teachers and we can be competitive to our teachers. And I do appreciate that analysis, and please consider that moving forward into next year's negotiations.
I absolutely agree. Thank you.
Okay, so Dr. Washer, we have a motion
You
and
have a motion and a second, you need a vote.
And this vote is for me to form the,
It's to form the committee
The board
and give you
ad
the
hoc.
authority to appoint the other 2 members.
and do I need to come out publicly at the next meeting and?
Yes, well, I mean, it's a public, it's a
Well,
public
like I
thing,
will,
so yes.
we will, okay, got it. Call for the vote? The vote passes 7-0. One more time, Mr. Nod, can we get the motion and the second again? Do you have it? You have it? Okay, you're good then. Thank you. Moving on, OAI 2, Declaration of Need for Fully Qualified Educators. Mr. McKilligan.
Madam President, this is our annual declaration. We just need it approved.
Madam Chairman, I move we approve OAI 2.
Thank you, Mr. Navas.
Second.
Mr. Neely, thank you for the second. Any board comments? Any public comment?
You knew I had to come up here, right?
No.
Okay, so I have this open, hold on. I'm trying to do the paperless thing here, so I'm looking at your Declaration of Need for Fully Qualified Educators that you have posted, and it's very eye-opening. It says that we're going to need about a total of 35 teachers, but then it goes back into estimated number of needed.
You're okay. It was
Okay.
yellow when you started. You're okay.
All right. Multiple subject, 30. Single subject, 42. Special education, 60, for a total of 132 teachers that we might have to do exemptions on, so they will not be highly qualified teachers. That's frightening. 132 teachers. Now, I understand that we have about 1,350 teachers, and that's about 8%. That's still way too many. Okay, I mean, I know a lot of people come to these meetings and they kind of look at it and they don't take the deep dive, and I'm frightened. I'm frightened about what's going on with this district. I'm frightened about where this district is going, having this many, asking for an exemption for this many teachers, 132. We need to do a better job of retaining and recruiting teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Calling for the board vote. OAI 2 passes 7-0. OAI 3, increased certificated sub-pay rates. Mr. McKilligan.
Madam President, you have before you the certificated substitute pay rates increased by the same 5.07% that other employee groups receive.
Mr. Connect said motion, and Mr. Porter second. Any board comments? Any public comments? Call for the vote. OAI 3 passes 7-0. Moving on to OAI 4, Resolution 2022-50, concerning an exemption to the CalSTRS separation from services requirement. Mr. McKilligan.
Madam President, this is another exemption for an employee that would like to waive that 180-day waiting period.
Thank you very much.
Chairman, I move we approve.
Second.
Mr. Nava motions, Mr. Knexted seconds. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Call for the vote. OAI 4 passes 7-0. Moving on to OAI 5, approval of resolution 2022-52, recognizing a state of emergency and authorizing virtual teleconferencing meetings pursuant to AB 361. Dr. Washer.
Thank you, President Farley, members of the board. This is a continuation. Every 30 days, you need to pass a resolution if you would like to take advantage of this opportunity if it comes up. We are actually taking advantage of it tonight with one of the board members, so if you'd like to continue that, you need to approve it.
Madam Chairman, I move we approve 8-6.
Thank you, Mr. Nava.
Second.
Mr. Knack said second. Any board comments? Any public comments? Oh, yes.
Dr. Washer, before COVID, we could teleconference in anyway, couldn't we?
You could, Mr. Heberly, members of the board, but it had to be, your location had to be posted on the agenda at the posting time. Whereas this allows you to not have to do that if it is related to a COVID issue.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Neely.
Yeah, the reason that we need this also is that if we do a teleconference on a normal situation, you got to post everything, it's got to be on the agenda and all of that. I didn't find out that I had been exposed to COVID until this morning. So because of this, I'm able to go ahead and make the meeting. If it hadn't been for that, we'd have had an issue. So I'm going to be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. Call for the vote. And we have the motion passes 6-0 with one opposed, Mr. Heberly. OAI 6, Resolution 2022-54, the hiring of short-term classified employees. Mr. McKilligan.
Madam President, this is our annual resolution that allows you, if it's needed, to be able to hire short-term temporary employees in these areas.
Madam President, I move we approve.
Thank you, Mr. Nava.
Second.
Mr. Knexted has seconded. Any board comments? Any public comments? Call for the vote. OAI 6 passes 7-0. OAI 7, mental health therapist salary and policy statement. Mr. Warren. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Any comments from Mr. Warren? No comments, I call for the vote. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't have a vote. Move to approve. Thank you, Mr. Knexted. As a motion, I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Heberly has seconded. Call for the vote. Who's jumping in?
That was a quick meeting there, Paul.
Did a really nice job, Paul.
Very nice. Guess we got a chance to sit there.
OAI 8, approval of early literacy support block ELSD grant annual update. Mr. Dunn.
President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer, in order to continue receiving the funds associated with this grant at Victor School, the board needs to approve the annual report.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
Madam Chairman, I move we approve. Second.
We have Mr. Nava motion, Mr. Knexted second. Any comments from the public? I have one quick comment. Why is this significant?
It's a requirement of the grant that you approve this as
I'm just making my quick question. Just the rule book, I like that. So Mr. Knexted and Mr. Nava, call for the vote.
Is the grant effective
The report,
Not the money, the program.
the report speaks to the progress of the students, and it's a part of that early reading importance at Victor School. And so, yes.
Thank you.
OAI 8 passes 7-0. Mr. McKilligan, certified and classified personnel matters.
Madam Personnel, routine personnel matters are presented for your consideration.
Madam President, I move to approve personnel matters.
Thank you, Mr. Navas. And Mr. Connect said seconded. Any board comments? Any public comments? Yes.
Again, and I mentioned this earlier, 26 teachers are either resigning or retiring, mostly resignations, excuse me. I actually spoke with a school nurse who is considering leaving the district and told me, we have one on this list, that she can go to Stockton Unified, get a signing bonus, and make more money, but also her health care costs are going to go down significantly. Now, again, I get it. Apples to, is it apples to oranges? I don't know. I don't know what they offer and what plan she's chosen, but it was a significant decrease in her pay cut. I know of a teacher personally, type of teacher we want to keep. Young teacher, master's degree. She's leaving for a nearby district in Sacramento County. She'll make significantly more, $10,000 or $9,000 a year more. Her health insurance is less, but in the long term, she's looking at retirement and saying that even just standing here, even if they just give me COLA every year, I'm going to be better off than what I can get in Lodi in 10 years. We need to have the study done that President McFarland suggested. I agree. But in the interim, we don't have time to sit on our hands and say, well, we're waiting for this study. We need to attract teachers because we've had a significant number already. Every time I come to these meetings, and I've been coming all year, I see a list where we have way more separations than we do have appointments. We can't continue to work like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
At our site alone, there are several teachers that are just leaving education. They're just not coming back, and they're new teachers, 4 years in, and they were all wonderful, awesome teachers, but just burnt out and overwhelmed and everything. So another thing to look at is not just money, working conditions, how we're supported and disciplined at our site. I suggest looking at where these teachers are leaving. What percentage are leaving from I only know high school, so I can't speak to elementary, but we're bleeding teachers at Bear Creek. So, what percentage are leaving Tokay, McNair, et cetera, something to think about. We're losing our AP teachers on our site. We're losing 3 AP teachers, all excellent teachers. One is going to a charter school, one is retiring early, and one is going to Elk Grove. So then the thing is, who's going to teach those AP classes? So we need to do something about the bleeding of the teachers at our site, in our district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. No additional board comments. Call for the vote. Personnel matters passed 7-0. We're on to the report portion. Dr. Saleh.
President Farley, members of the board, it appears that the LCAP addendum attachment is missing from ESB, so we will bring that back next time.
No
Since the
problem.
public did not have a chance to review it.
Do we need to vote to bring it back? Or
No.
Perfect. Okay. Well, Dr. Solly, you're still up. 22-23 school plans for student achievement.
Thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. Our annual SIPSAs, school site plans for our Title I sites, are in the board packet today for your review. I would make note that this is an unusual time. In previous years, this was brought in winter, December-ish, and so schools would open up, principals would start developing their plan. That then prohibited them from spending funding till generally December, January. So this year, our categorical office staff and our principals and their staffs did a wonderful job. They actually completed 2 SIPSs this year. The benefit of completing this SIPSs we're bringing for you tonight is that pending approval, they'll be able to start spending their money July 1. So it's much more efficient, effective use of their Title I funding. And these, yes, Mr. Khan and the Budget and Accounting Officer are extremely pleased with this as well. This is just overall a district, a big step in efficiency and making sure our students and teachers and classrooms are better served with these funds. The Title I principals are here in the room. If you have any specific questions about any of their plans, they're happy to answer those. But this is real hats off to them for doing, in the midst of probably one of the most difficult years, they completed 2 SIPSs, but the big win is from here on out. These SIPSs will come to you in June, and they can start spending their money July 1. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Select. I would just like to start by saying thank you for doing not 1, but 2 in your spare free time this year. I'm sure you had lots of it. So thank you very much for putting that extra time in. I don't want to know how many weekends and other hours you did. Board, any comments?
First of all, thank you. I want to echo what Ms. McFarland said. And I guess for me, just a comment, it's really too bad that we have to jump through so many hoops and file so much paperwork for somebody somewhere somehow to actually look at it before you get the money. School funding in California is an absolute mess. And I just, grants are one thing, but wouldn't it be nice if they just rolled it all into everybody gets some money so that we can do what we need to do? Side comment, but again, thank you. The effort does not go unnoticed. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heberly. Any public comments?
Sonia Renholt, I'm the principal at Needham Elementary School, and this is my first year as principal, and it is the hardest year I've ever worked in my entire existence.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. It's also been a really wonderful year, but also a year filled with sadness, but I don't want to go there because I'm not ready. But I do want to say that doing 2 SIPSs in a year is really, really hard. But I really want to say thank you so much to Neil and Susan, because without their help, there is no way I could have completed that. So I want to give credit to my team because they really helped us through that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sonia. Moving on. Do you need anything else? Oh, it's a report. Sorry. Do you need anything else from us, or do you have? We could vote if you wanted. Do you need anything?
It's only 8:20.
Mr. Novice got at least 40 minutes left. Okay, Dr. Solly.
Focusing on the fact that nobody's eating the cake.
Mr. Novice, we're going to trim a page.
Madam President,
Yes.
if these administrators are not needed anymore for any other future reports, maybe they can go home and get ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is no school.
Oh, that's right, geez.
They want to stay till at least 11.
All I keep thinking is, I've got a house full of grandkids coming over tomorrow.
It's only 8:20.
And of course, they want to leave before my report, I'm noticing, so.
They'll meet you at the corner.
President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer, we bring to you tonight a report on some changes you're going to see to the elementary school report card. Mike, if you would please pull that up. So let me just start, as he's pulling this up, with an understanding that the data we collect from the assessments we provide students to gather important information, they have changed over time. And we no longer do benchmarks. Instead, we do a diagnostic approach to assessing our students. And so with that change, I'm trying to speak slowly so my executive summary comes up. If anyone wants cake, there is some over to my left. It is award-winning. There's a plaque that denotes that. Yep. Yeah, this version is a lot cheaper. I can
Test.
Yes, first-hand knowledge. So if you go to the executive summary, because we've gone to that diagnostic window, the report cards, we're going to align those in elementary with those three windows. Currently, well, next school year, all elementary sites will provide a beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year assessment of our student progress. And so we want our report cards, and we will align those with those three diagnostic windows. And the beginning of the year, which is really at that fall parent-teacher conference. Middle of the year is really after that January, February window. And then the end of the year happens when students, will just happen as students go to summer. So that represents the change you're going to see in elementary. And so I wanted to bring that to you so you were aware of that change and answer any questions you might have as to what that change might look like. If there's anything in this report that you have questions about, I would love to answer those.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Board members, do you have any questions? Yes, Mr. Hall.
Neil, I just have a question on your decision-making feedback. Everything positive?
I haven't heard any teachers say anything but they're happy to do 3 report cards. I know the feedback we've received and there is a decision-making feedback slide. What we ask principals to do is take this out to their leadership teams, get input, ask those teachers to get it out to the rest of the faculty at their school sites and the feedback as well. Under questions, because it's a change, there were questions such as, well, what happens if parents want information when they go on winter break? Which certainly there's no limitation with teachers sharing information, and the hope is that would be ongoing. But being able to report directly the information from those assessments was positive. The one question that did come up, and Michelle Orgon and I did have conversations about it, she just wants to make sure a committee is put together, and you'll see that in here. So any changes that need to occur include teacher voices, principal voices, assessment, special ed, all the different people can be a part of making those changes, even providing parents clear information. Sometimes a 4 doesn't make sense, but being able to provide real information about the progress of their student is going to be important. So that work needs to happen still. The actual report cards are going to look very similar to the previous. It just won't have 4 columns. It'll just have the 3, and they will align with our 3 diagnostic windows. That was a long answer. Sorry, Mr.
Very thorough.
Thank you.
All right.
Very thorough. Yes, Mr. Heatherly.
No comment, or no question, just a comment. Listen, I'm going to talk anyway. Now, I have to tell you, I do know it's actually summertime and there is no school in session right now. It's good. But
There is cake, though, if you want some over here.
what there is a lot of grandkids around. I'm tired. They have a lot of energy. Anyway, thank you. It's not a question, it's a comment, and it was about the process. I really do appreciate the process of getting it out, getting it back. Because the people who use it are the ones that need to have buy-in and make sure that it's working for them. And so just to comment that I do appreciate how it gets out and how you get your feedback coming in. So hopefully this will be, I guess, easier and a good answer. And I do like the idea of having continual loop of feedback so that if modifications have to be made, that's kind of built into the system. I like it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Yes.
Yeah, my only comment is, for decades and decades, report cards have been quarterly, and now we're only going to do 3, which is fine with me, but I feel like you might be hearing some complaints from the public, from parents. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I think it's something you need to be thinking about and coming up with why we're doing this. And I mean, I know why you're doing it because of the diagnostic stuff, and it makes a lot of sense, but I can see people having an issue with it. I guess it's not a question, it's just a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Any other? Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Ford.
No, go ahead. No, I don't want to push you.
If you want to Rochambeau, that's what we do at playgrounds.
Well, they're thinking about this. Why do they let all elementary principals go? There's no work. They're not going to school tomorrow, are they?
Yes, they are.
Oh, they are? Okay. All right. Stand corrected.
I think if we go to the end of this presentation, we see the new report card, 2 slides down.
Yeah, the final slide is a
It's the
PDF copy.
And the difference primarily being is that we just have 3 grades instead of 4.
There are 3 reporting periods instead of the 4.
You know, and any other ways that this has changed?
Not at this juncture. That's part of that committee coming together and making recommendations.
And what has been the parent input on this?
We have not solicited input. Part of what we're waiting to hear and talk about is what parents think. And part of that is getting the information out to parents at the beginning of the 22-23 school year.
Hence, this is why a report item today asking if we wanted to proceed on to solicit this. So this isn't, okay. I get some of this eventually. So this isn't set in stone. This is just an option right now. And you're asking for permission for us to move forward on this?
This is not an action item. This is a report to make you aware. Yeah, this should be under reports, yes.
It is a report.
Yes, I'm sorry, did I say that backwards?
No, you're right.
This is a report to make you aware of the changes that are coming and the input we received in order to move forward. The next step will be to make adjustments to the actual report card and solicit input from all stakeholders in that process.
So we're still pretty early in the process.
Yes, but we're moving forward.
But we're moving forward, assuming you have board approval tonight?
No, he's just reporting. He's just reporting. He's just giving us where they're at in the process, and the process, it will be moving forward, and then it will come back.
Is that right, Dr. Washer?
Mr. Freitas, members of the board, we are sharing information with you about our intent to change to a 3 reporting system. If you want to actually take formal action, we could bring it back as an action item, but I don't know that you need to do that, but we certainly can do that.
Great. We'll make that determination when I finish getting everyone's comments. How's that? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Mr. Young, parents can still go online and check their progress. So if you're a 5th grade or a 4th grader, you can go online at any time and check and see how your student's doing, your child.
Yes.
And if you have any concerns, of course, you can call the teacher and set up an appointment and meet with them if you feel so.
Absolutely.
And so these report cards are nothing more than a accumulation of what they've done already during the year as you observe what they're doing. And the diagnostic part is kind of what you already knew anyway. Is that what am I seeing this correctly?
If I could add one piece to the way you're seeing it, the change from benchmarking to now diagnostic Benchmarks are kind of at the end, and then you move on.
Right.
Diagnostic is to say, hey, parents, this is reality, how your child is performing.
Right.
Here are some things you can do. So we can provide data that goes along with the report card, so parents are involved in the education of their children. And so that's a piece that we can do with the diagnostic. Provides great parent feedback that can go along and participate in those parent-teacher conferences, and then keep them updated as the year progresses to see that progress.
So instead of being static with the benchmarks, this is a dynamic process. It's very fluid in terms of how the student, the child, is doing, and parents can go along with that online, meet with the teacher, and this is just kind of coming together, I guess.
It's a moment in time, keeping you updated on how the progress is happening. So yes, you're right.
I really like it. Thank you very much.
I'll jump in before I speak. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Just one more time, and I apologize if you said this. What were the approximate dates on this? So the fall grades will come out Thanksgiving or before the spring of the fall break? Winter grades will come out when? And then I imagine the spring grades are the final grades that would come out before promotion or graduation.
For elementary, an important time is the parent-teacher conference. That's when the first reporting period will happen with the information of how their child is performing at the beginning of the year. The middle is really not our traditional quarter system middle where we look at December break. It's after the diagnostic window, which happens late January into late February, so the feedback comes after that. And then the final one is as the year wraps up.
And you're shooting for that parent-teacher conference kind of?
It is going to be the last week before the October break. The dates that have already been scheduled as minimum days, Tuesday through Friday that week, for parents to meet with their teacher.
I see. Okay. So where traditionally our families would receive grades before the Christmas break or the holiday break, now they're just going to see that later in January or February.
Right now it's scheduled to happen before they go on the March break, but with elementary we have an assessment collaboration day, as it's in the report, that happens. It's a minimum day just for elementary right at the beginning of March, and a common planning in February. We'd actually love the committee to look at, there's still minimum days, they still receive both, but flip-flopping those so they can actually put those assessments together and provide the parents in February that information, which is more in line with the beginning, middle, and end. But that's part of what the report card committee needs to look at and get input from teachers, principals, and others.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, President McFarland.
Go ahead.
So I have a couple of questions. So on this new report card, what are the diagnostics you're going to be using to fill in the blanks here?
Want me to answer that question?
Yes, normally we do comments, but
okay.
If you have a comment, I'll tell you the same thing. I'll give you my same spiel that I used to give. Oh my God, she hasn't been gone, Michelle. I would love it if you can send your questions to Neil and then come if you want to come to the podium and share all the information that you shared. But we've got a new system working, so I would love for you to ask your questions of Neil at this juncture, and then we'll get into our new process as we move through them.
Okay, well, and I'm just going to say that, the Brown Act, and these are supposed to be transparency for people to know, and I feel that what you're telling me is a violation of the Brown Act, and I will sort of look into that. But I'm being told that this is already a done deal from teachers, elementary teachers, and I guess I want to know, how is this going to be done? Who's on the committee that's going to do this? And then my question about when it was going to happen has sort of been answered, but I'd like to get some more concrete time frames on, you're talking about parent-teacher conferences. I know they're a little bit different at different sites. So are we talking about a window? Are we talking about a hard date? That sort of thing. And the same thing with midterm assessments. They don't they stagger them just to make it easier for everyone. So, and sometimes they even stagger them for grades, by grades at a particular site. So all of those things are logistical things that need to be looked at and definitely need more information on, and would have liked to have that in the report today. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I've been asked to ask, who's on the report card committee? I realize you can't tell me right now, but they're like, who's on the committee? Because they've been told it's a done deal. So just, there's questions out there from elementary teachers.
Mr. Young, you're free to share if you want. I mean,
We have not put the committee together yet. That's going to be when we return in July and into the fall. Currently what exists that we are going to start utilizing is what you see in front of you. The changes that will be made will include teachers, site administrators, and others, but that has not been created yet, and I need to work with Dr. Sully and his assessment office and make sure what we set up is including everyone to have a voice. When I say everyone, I don't mean 70 people, but to have a committee that can review input from teachers and staff.
so to clarify, you have not made any final decisions.
We have not.
Thank you very much. Board, do you have any more questions? I would like to say there's probably a lot of students that would really enjoy this because the first reporting happens sometimes fall break, and then somewhere about the time the students are having a really good Christmas break, the grades come.
Santa may come this year, yes.
And so I'm thinking, you know, when I looked at this, the first thing I thought of is students are going to be telling their parents, this is the best thing ever because nothing is disturbed. They're going to have their breaks. Is what the way I looked. The first thing, looking at it through parental eyes first. That was the first thing I noticed. But I do like where you're going with this. I think again, teachers and principals. I think if it's a tool that's going to work well for all stakeholders, and I'm behind your direction. Anything else you need from us?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, President McFarland.
One tonight for you. That's
just one. Yeah.
Just one.
But thank you, President McFarland, members of the board, Dr. Washer. So this is, before the board is the Lodi High field turf project. It is not actually a project. Staff is seeking direction to investigate and maybe bring back report resolution on replacing the grass on the Rostameli soccer field with field turf that would have striping for multiple athletic activities. In doing the level of construction we're doing at site, we're constantly looking at how the site is utilized. Lodi High is your smallest high school by square footage. It's only 40 acres of land. And the soccer field as it exists right now is really a pretty one-dimensional facility, whereas if we replaced the grass with field turf, did all the right striping, it could provide the active space for spring or fall, winter and spring sports, as well as marching band, PE, everything. So if that's the direction the board might wish to go, I believe the board can afford such an investment at this time. The board has set aside approximately $4 million for field turf replacement. Just eyeballing a single football field, maybe $1.5 million in today's money might replace it. So, and your three fields right now are all in pretty good shape, depending on who you ask, but they really are in pretty good shape. So I think the board has time to replenish a replacement fund and maybe even provide the only school without a field turf field with actual turf. So I'd be happy to answer your questions.
I think that's a great idea. It's beneficial. You save water, and you have a lot more people involved in school. Like you said, marching band. Whoever wants, even the PE classes can go in there when it's raining. It's not wet. So I think there's a great idea to have a turf there.
Would this include maybe some bleachers?
It's possible. We haven't had it surveyed, looking at it, we could put some, just my visual, I think you could put some small array of bleachers on the field, but might be pleasantly surprised that I'm wrong. Maybe we could do more than that. I don't think we can get stadium level seating in there, but enough for full soccer, freshman, maybe JV football. It could be a lot more used as a site facility than it is now, I think.
So it could be used year round instead of rainy weather or. Oh, yeah.
Never rains on a football field.
No, not usually, yeah. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connect. Any other?
Yeah, great idea, Mr. Khan, go with it. I love it.
So I have one question. This pot of money does not take away from, say, other schools getting gymnasiums or other building options?
This money is currently set aside by the board for field turf replacement. That it's in your Fund 40, your capital facilities program. That resource has been extant for a decade that I know of. So
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Humphrey.
We were kind of thinking the same thing.
You didn't jump, so I did.
Well, that's okay. You've got the power button over there. I do think that's a great idea. If you've got more flexibility in the different groups that could use it, because a high school, it's almost like there's two lives of a high school. It's the academics during class time, and then there's a whole other community afterwards. And if there's more use that can come out of this and better use, I think it's great. Go for it.
Great. So it sounds like you have what you need, I would assume.
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you. Moving on to communications. Are any employee groups in the room? Any comments from board members?
Yes, I have a couple of comments.
Go ahead, Mr.
Madam
Nolan.
President. I want
We
to.
have a
All right. In conference over there.
I'm going to go ahead and go with
Next.
you. I'm gonna-
Is she next? Is she ready?
I'm ready. I just have to grab my notes.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm a little old school sometimes too. So, Dr. Washer, members of the board, so in comments for Lodi Unified, I did already talk about the changes in the working conditions for high school summer school, and it really does concern me a lot. And if this is going to be a model going forward, because we can't attract teachers to teach summer school, that it's going to be an issue, and I think it's just as unfair for students as it is with teachers. Another thing that's very concerning to me is there's talk about replacing live teachers for AP and honors classes with the online Pearson program. And for something like an AP program where you want to have a lot of discourse among students and among the teachers, I don't believe a Pearson program is going to satisfy that, and I don't think it is going to, I don't even know if it's going to adhere to the strict protocols that AP classes have. I mean, to be an AP teacher, you have to have specialized training. You have to, go through hours of training. You have to get certified. How is this acceptable to shelve it off to an online program? I know that a couple of years ago when this was discussed, we had several AP teachers who wrote a letter to the school board vehemently objecting to this. And I think we need to really research this before this becomes a done deal. I also wanted to talk about some elementary teachers and some secondary teachers as well. So there's some teachers who are moving sites, happens every year. And most On Friday, the 3rd, most of them had had students for a minimum day. Contract time, teachers were supposed to be there through the end of the day. And those who were moving sites were supposed to be able to move their teaching materials from their former site to their new site. And a lot of the new sites were not ready to accept these materials from teachers. So, since they're not getting time to move on the 3rd, which is a contract day, teachers now are going to have to move their materials on a non-contract day or during their summer. And I would like to know if the district is going to be able to time card these teachers who are taking time out of their day, their summer, to move materials for no fault of their own, just because their new room that they're going to be at, the new site they're going to be at, wasn't ready to take the materials, maybe because the other teacher hadn't moved out. I don't know all the details. But it's happened to more than one teacher. So we need to get that resolved. Those are a couple of things that I'm thinking of. I would really like to talk more about the AP and honors classes and what's going to go on with those. Because again, we can't just become a diploma mill. We have to give these students the best education possible. And if they're taking AP classes in hopes of getting into a UC or a CSU or even an Ivy League school, they need to be on a level playing field with everyone else. And doing this with Pearson remotely is not the way that we're going to get them there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Young and Mr. I'm looking at Scott, Mr. McGregor. The question about the classrooms, can I ask you to get together with Dr. Washer and find out what specific classrooms or schools we're speaking of? Because I can think of a half dozen teachers that had to move within a site that maybe it wasn't ready to go that night too, or that day. So if you maybe can get together with Ms. Wilkins and clarify that for the board at a later date. Thank you. Moving on, board members. Mr.
I just have a couple of things, and I'd like to know, because it's such an important subject, is that have we addressed the shortage of music programs for teachers, Dr. Washer?
Mr. Norman, members of the board, I can just let you know that we are recruiting, doing the same type of things that we are with all teachers, as has been mentioned many times. It's not just music teachers that we're looking for. We're looking for teachers in all areas. So this is unfortunately a result of not having enough staff to fill all those slots, and prep is a contracted obligation. So that's what I can tell you now. This isn't an agenda item, but that's what I can share with you now.
So there is a good possibility that we will fill the music areas.
If staffing changes, we will definitely make adjustments in schedules.
Thank you. Also, I'd like to address the problems of the restrooms at Bear Creek. I think that's such an important thing. And you know, when you have an enrollment of 2,000, that presents a big problem when you don't have those restrooms ready to go. And they should have a report right quick to M&O and get those things done. Thank you.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he had both things I had written down. So, restrooms at Bear Creek High School. Oh yeah, restrooms at Bear Creek High School is a must, and I think it is time to think outside the box about this music program thing. You know, I don't have any solutions, but creative thinking might go a long ways with this.
Thank you, Mr. Connexon. Ms. Porter.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. Thursday night, farmers market, tents up, Stockton Unified recruiting teachers, showing what they can do. This is in Lodi. Shocker. What are we doing? It's in your backyard and they're stealing your food. I mean, it's kind of tough to see that. The other thing is, I had a young man, I was in the ready room during graduation. It was for Lodi High. This guy has been with me, I won't say his name. He's been attached to my hip since he was in 6th grade, probably. Yeah, he's always played water polo for me. He went to Lodi High, and played my summer team, and his goal was, when he's a little kid, was to teach and coach. That's what he wanted to do at the high school level. He wanted to teach and coach. He wanted to coach water polo, and he was always asking me questions. He was a pest. His parents were nice people, and they gave me like gift cards to Starbucks and stuff like that. Anyway, on graduation night at Lodi High, he had done his student teaching at Lodi High, and on his own, went there to help out. Even though he'd done his student teaching. Now, if that was me, I would be somewhere having refreshments and not involved with the graduation if I was a student teacher, right?
Things have changed, Mr. Boyd.
Things have changed. Better kids.
Yeah.
Better kids. Anyway, he comes in, he chats with me, coach, how you doing? We've been friends for a long time. And I said, how's it going? Because I've been a reference for him. I got a phone call 2 months ago from Manteca Uniform. He goes, yeah, I applied everywhere. Manteca Lathrop High has taken me on. They took me on 2 months ago, and I'm going to be a social studies teacher at Lathrop High School. I said, we need you at Lodi High, because this is what we need, a water polo coach there, we need this. He says, I really want to. This is my goal. This is lifelong, and this is something I've heard about for 10 years. I always wanted to teach and coach at Lodi High. He said, but the problem was the same academic background. Went to Davis, Teachers College, he's getting his master's, yada, yada, yada. Paying me $15,000 more. Salary. Maybe help me. But my point in that is, my jaw dropped. And here I am, board member, poobah, whatever you want to call me, and I had no idea it was that much of a difference. And he says, I'm willing to take a pay cut to come back, but I've got to fulfill my first year of my contract. I want to be at Lodi High. And I felt so bad that we couldn't offer him a package. Now, they recruited him, he interviewed 3 months ago. They had transfer process, interviews, all at the same time. And the vice principal of Lathrop High called me immediately. So we got a gem here, a 1M, what do you think? Take it. I happen to know the vice principal, she knew me, we had chatted, she knew my background, yada, 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 but she knew other people who talked to him and so forth. And over people that were trying to transfer in, she took him. And even though he wants to come back, even though there's an opening now at Lodi High, he's going to honor his obligation. What are we doing to attract and retain teachers? It's been a theme all night. My jaw dropped. I'm glad that Ms. McFarland has brought forward this transparency. We need to keep kids like this that go to graduation as student teachers to help run the graduation. I thought it was phenomenal. A phenomenal young man. And these are the people we need to keep in our district. We're losing AP teachers. Why? I don't know. I heard we're going to lose the entire English department at Bear Creek. Why? Don't know. So you might think we're the best. And there's times I thought I was the best as a coach and a teacher, and then reality hit me smack in the face when that lesson plan dumped, or that game went sideways and I lost by more than the game I thought I was going to win. You gotta look in the mirror and make changes. I think we're at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Mr. Haverly.
Well, seeing as how some thunder was stolen, I'll just say it. I know there's problems with vandalism in the bathrooms, even Lodi High, the brand new school. They're having problems with vandalism in the bathrooms. However, let's not make that an excuse. Let's make that a reason why we have to just dig in and fix it. We've got to get our bathrooms in all of our sites up to snuff. They need to be fully stocked, and I know it's going to be a real pain, but it has to be. You can't hold it all day. It's unhealthy. So anyway, that's that comment. Yeah, the other one, that thunder was stolen too, about the music program. I am very hopeful that something will shake so that we can start instituting even a partial of that. But we have to try and not just go, well, you know, we'll see what happens. We need to push on that. I was on the board when we restored music, and I was a product of having music in the schools also, and it was wonderful. And some of these things are the hooks that keep kids in school, especially in the upper grades. So I'm absolutely a fan of music in the schools, and my mom's first job in high school was a music teacher. So obviously we all grew up with music. The third thing I wanted to bring up was graduation. Wow, you know, that is really good duty, going to those. They're a lot of fun. Matter of fact, when Friday night came along, after 4 nights of that, I came like, geez, what am I going to do tomorrow night? Congratulations to all the graduates, great time, it was very enjoyable. The last thing I wanted to bring up was on the public hearing. And there were materials attached to that regarding the budget. And I have a question for Mr. Khan. There is a resolution not on tonight's agenda, but it says it's for June 14th, the resolution 56. So all of this will come to us officially for approval or discussion on the 14th.
Correct.
Is it for adoption or voting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will get with you before that, and because I do have some questions and concerns, so I will be talking to you about that. There's some very interesting and informative information pages and packets regarding the budget. So some good, some concerning to me personally. So anyway, I'll be in contact with you and we'll discuss that on the 14th. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Everly. Mr. Freitas.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Dr. Washer, and my colleagues for pointing out the graduations. I got to attend a bunch of them, starting with Middle College, Lincoln Tech, Adult School, Liberty, and then the 4 at UOP. You talk about spectacular, but even having Hutchins Street Square, what a great venue. And our kids, once again, talk about going to great places. We have people going into the workforce, going into the military, and going into some of the greatest schools that we have in the nation. We had Ivy Leaguers, I think, from 2 of our high schools. We had a couple going to Stanford and many going to the UCs. And that we provide that once again makes us the educational destination. How sad. The Tokyo band was playing and not going to be there next year. And they actually had alumni that came back and played for graduations. But we got to figure out a way to get band. And I know so many people, when we came back and we beat the budget crisis and we brought that band, it was very, very important. So this is a priority to me also. And thank you everyone for their comments.
Thank you, Mr. Freitas. Mr. Neely, do you have any comments?
I do. Mr. Heverly, let's not refer to this as feeling thunder. Let's refer to this as direction. I'm going to say the same thing. First of all, music program. Let's find a way to make it work. All right? I don't know how, but Dr. Washer, I know you do. And you can make it work. The next thing is the bathrooms. Come on, guys. Fix the bathrooms. Open the bathrooms. And again, you can look at this now as direction. You've heard enough board members say this. We need to get those things fixed. One last thing, graduation. They were awesome. Schools did a tremendous job on that. A lot of happy kids that day, and wouldn't miss it for the world. That's all I've got. Thank you very much.
Don't get sick, George.
Thank you, Mr. Neely.
To believe me.
Some of my thunder was also stolen. Music. Anything we can do. I think it's not just about stopping it in the elementary for 1 year. It's the wave that it will have in the years to come. The student that's behind in a specific instrument and those things, and I know these are very difficult decisions for our cabinet to make, but anything we can do on music, I don't think there's a board member sitting up here that wants that to happen. So we're counting on you to find a way. The graduation's amazing. While we talk about all the Ivy League and all the scholars that were acknowledged, I also want to acknowledge the students that made it. There are some that made it, period, and that is their thunder for the rest of their life. Congratulations to you, those that are going to trade schools, those that are joining the military. Not everybody's going to an Ivy League school, so I think we need to remember that we always celebrate the top, we need to celebrate the middle, the bottom, the lower bottom, and somewhere in between. So any student that graduated, whether it was from Liberty, adult education, I could go on and on. It was a sea of graduations. I think I did 9 total. And I rounded out the weekend going to a personal one of my daughters. So while I sat through all the other ones, I went, okay, student speakers now. Now I felt like I could almost orchestrate one on my own by the end of the weekend. Thank you, board members. Do we have any other comments? Well, with that, we're out at move to adjourn. I appreciate it.
Oh, I missed it. Oh. It's like right at the beginning.